Previously on Our Curious Georgia.
I think so, Daddy. I
I felt the baby move.
First time?
Yep. Georgie, do you think the baby's gonna be a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Want to try the
This is Dad's
zucchini?
favorite item on the menu.
Since Georgia's 3 months old, I've only been able to nurse her on one side.
That was crazy. So how's it going, guys? Hope you've had a really good week. We've had a pretty eventful couple weeks ourselves, as you may be able to tell. But let's get right to the chase. Probably the most asked question we get is, what do we do for work? What do we eat? And how much do these different locations cost us to live? So we did a pretty extensive breakdown of our monthly expenditures, and we want to share that with you guys today. So I hope you have your pens, paper ready to go. I've got a lot of information coming at you. So let's talk money. So I do realize in the title it says Vietnam versus Bali. So Bali is not its own country, it's part of Indonesia, and it is hard to compare two countries' cost of living. So we wanted to be more specific and go right into Da Nang, where we lived in Vietnam, and Ubud in Bali, okay? So most of you guys know that we lived in Vietnam for 15 months. 12 of those months was spent living strictly in Da Nang. So we did do a video before on living in Da Nang and what it cost us, but that was about a year ago. We were new when we did that. We were only been living there for like 2 months. We were still getting our feet wet. So we did an updated cost of living in Da Nang to see how much has changed in a year. Have we been able to cut costs in certain areas? Have we picked up new costly habits? Have, you know, when you get more familiar with a neighborhood, you start to find cheap ways to save money. You know, this lady she's got cheaper smoothies in this one, or this restaurant's cheaper. So we wanted to do a comparison. And also, we lived in Bali for 3 months, more specifically Ubud. So we really wanted to put this lingering question to rest. What is more expensive? Is Vietnam cheaper, or is Bali cheaper to live? So of course, keep in mind that every family, every traveler has a different standard of living. Everybody has different costs. We are a family of 3 with a toddler. So when you hear these numbers today, just keep that in mind. I broke these down into subsections for you guys, okay? So we got accommodation, which is like your rent, electricity, Wi-Fi and that. Transport, which is scooter rental in both places, gas for the scooter, or any taxis that we took around the city. Phone credit, food, basically groceries and eating out. We've divided it up. Miscellaneous, health insurance, and visas, okay, because visas is a cost, and it's a cost in both of these countries. So our accommodation in Vietnam was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, which included water, and it was only a 4-minute walk to the beach, which is a great location in Centre District. So that apartment cost us $450 US per month. If you put that in Vietnamese dong, that's like 10 million bucks. What that included was Wi-Fi, cable, and a cleaning person once a week. Anything on top of that would have been your utilities, so your not water, just electricity. So in the rainy season, we never used our air conditioning, just fans. So our bills were like 20 bucks a month, sometimes less. That was 3 months of the year. The rest of the year, they hovered around $70 to $80 a month. So tack that on. Plus drinking water, you have to buy a jug of water. You can't drink the tap water. I don't know, it varies. Maybe once a week we would buy one of them, and they're like $1 a buck or $1.20. Also, gas for the stove is a cost. That whole tank was $13 US. It might last us 2 to 3 months depending on your cooking. So now let's hop over to Bali, where we had a 1-bedroom private villa, no air conditioning, just fan, for $470 a month US. That included everything. There was nothing on top of that. That was your Wi-Fi, your cleaning, your electricity. There was no extras other than your drinking water jug, which is literally the same price as Vietnam, and your gas propane stove, same thing, except the tank was little. It was like half the size of a backyard barbecue. So we were refilling that a little bit more, maybe every 3 weeks versus every 2 to 3 months. Again, it's like $1.40 to fill it, okay? So those are the 2 costs for the accommodation there. Okay, so transport. To rent a scooter in Da Nang cost me $44 US a month. To rent a scooter in Ubud cost me $43 a month, virtually the same. Gas, it's like $2 $2 to fill a tank, okay? I spent a little bit more in Vietnam, I think about $4, because I was driving to work every day where I wasn't doing that in Bali. So taxis for Ubud was $32.50 for the month. Taxis for Vietnam are $93. Again, it ranges, just things seem to be a little bit more walking distance for us in Bali, so we walked a lot more versus in Vietnam. So next up is travel insurance, which is a little bit different than health insurance. And some of you guys ask, what is the difference? Travel insurance covers the traveler, okay? So it covers you for cancellations of flights, lost or stolen property or goods, personal belongings, and any emergency situation that you may need to be airlifted home. Health insurance is more like what we have at home. You know, like for an expat who's living in a spot permanently or full-time, when they go visit the doctors, they have to pay a fee. Healthcare or health insurance covers that. So we had travel insurance the whole time we were away. We went with a company at first called Tugo, and we paid $135 a month. So as far as visas goes, it's a cost. You can't ignore it because we're not residents of these countries, so we have to pay to be there. Each country has different regulations, not going to get into that, but the cost for us to be in Vietnam for 3 months was $125 total. So you break that down per month, that's $41 for the three of us, not including visa runs. So when those 3 months expire, we can't stay anymore. If we want to stay, we have to leave the country, come back again. There's a cost in that. However you do it, bus, train, flight, that's varied, okay, depending on you guys. So as far as Bali goes, we only got a 2-month visa. The next one up would have been a 6-month, and we didn't want to do that. So for 2 months, it was $260, so $130 per month, which is a little bit more, but keep that in mind when you're doing visa runs or paying for visas, that's a cost, okay? Okay, phone credit. Vietnam was about $5 a month, $4.96. Indo, we never got a phone, so no cost. Okay, so let's get into more of the variables now. So food, this is a big one, and it's gonna surprise a lot of people. Vietnam, groceries, just groceries that we go buy was $6.11 per month US, okay, for grocery store visits. For Bali it was $8.11. Exactly, $8.11, so $200 more. I'm not gonna break down, you know, cost for cost, item for item, pretty much apple for apple in these countries. Bali is a little bit more inflated than Vietnam, okay? Both still cheap countries, and you can do it on the cheap, but when you're talking food, you know, for an example, a black coffee in Vietnam, not at a little hole in the wall, like a pretty nice spot, 87 cents for a black coffee. In Indonesia, the cheapest I could find good quality coffee is about $1.09. Both still cheap, but a little bit more. Coconuts. A coconut in Vietnam, the cheapest that we could find was $1.09. In Bali was $1.20. Okay, so just a little bit more. Everything's a little bit more. Now, as far as eating out, here's the shocker. In Vietnam, we spent $211 per month eating out. In Bali, $540 US per month. Not justifying it, it's high for us, even we know that. However, why? We worked a little bit more from home in Vietnam. We had the second bedroom, we kind of use it as an office. In Bali, we didn't have that. And we both work on the laptop, so if Jazz goes off to work, she's going to a cafe. If I go off to work, I'm going to a cafe. So we're paying to be there. We have to buy food. So those costs went up. Also, if you've ever been to Bali, we're vegan. It is a paradise, okay? We got a little overzealous. We knew getting there, we're gonna be excited. We wanted to try all the good things again. Vietnam doesn't have those temptations for us. So kind of out of sight, out of mind, we weren't pressured to do it. Walking through streets in Bali or in Ubud, it's like walking through Toys R Us and telling a kid not to touch the toys. It's hard. So that's why it was inflated a little bit. Also, something about the food is that Georgia before didn't eat as much. Georgia eats a lot now. Georgia is her own entree now. She crushes her own plate. So that's also an added expense every time we go out. She's not just picking from our plate. She's eating her own stuff. Okay, so next up is miscellaneous. So things like, you know, haircuts or gym day passes or pool passes to take Georgia. Maybe if you bust a sandal or you need new shoes or shorts or something, anything like that. In Vietnam, we spent 288 US per month, okay? Just to give you an idea, a gym, to go to a gym, a day pass I went to in Vietnam was $1 to use the gym. In Bali, to use the gym for a day pass was like $4. And so in Bali, the miscellaneous was 123 US per month, and in Vietnam was 288. I don't know why that's higher. Maybe it was Christmas time. It was December we did this, so maybe a couple of extra gifts. But okay, so the total cost living in Vietnam per month was $1,510 for us to live there. That's everything. In Bali, it was $2,286, so like $700 more. All in all, you can see matched up, a lot of them are pretty even. It's food. Food is the biggest thing for us, and we knew that going there, and if we do go back, that we need to cut that down a little bit. We don't need to eat out that much, and even after the 2 months that we were there, the novelty was wearing off. We were kind of getting bored of eating out. We wanted to cook more. So I think the general rule of thumb, guys, to keep in mind is so many of us bring our Western habits from home, consuming lots, getting here and buying everything and living the same way. And if you live like a Westerner in these countries, you're going to pay for it. It's going to be very expensive. But if you want to live more locally, live more of a Vietnamese style home, go to more of a Vietnamese style local market versus a big name brand grocery store, or not going to Starbucks but going to a local coffee shop, things like that bring it down. It's just something to get used to, and you start to enjoy it more, a more minimalistic lifestyle in a way. So a question I want to answer this week is from a gentleman named Kareem Pinkston, okay? Awesome guy. Basically, he was asking, do we have local bank accounts set up in these countries? And also want to know, how do we pay for our rent? Like, it doesn't come like a direct deposit like it does at home. So no, we don't have local bank accounts set up. You need to be a resident to do that, or a sort of business visa to do that. So we always just withdraw from our Canadian accounts, whether it's our debit account or our Visa. Visa will cost me $5 to withdraw from my bank account at home, and whatever the ATM fees are. And then you pay your rent with cash. That's how they want it. So if you are coming to rent day at the end of the month and you've only got a little bit of money, you got to go to the ATMs and get money out. And sometimes they have limits, so make sure that you might have to go each day for 3 days before you get to that rental day. And he says, how should I travel with all that money? We don't really bring much money with us to travel with. Maybe a couple hundred US we keep in our bags, but we wait till we get to the destination and start taking out money. That's just what we do. Other people have different methods. But yeah, I hope that covers everything and gives you guys sort of a better idea of what these two countries cost. It is hard to compare, but it's also a very common question as to what does it cost to live in these different countries, because these are very popular destinations for expats to move to reside in, to travel in. So I hope this gives you sort of a bit more in-depth knowledge on that. But yeah, other than that, we will see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.